The National Park Service, along with many other agencies, is very concerned about the decline in pollinator populations here in the St. Croix Valley, our nation, and around the world. The Park Service reports that 75% of our flowering plants, 75% of our crops are pollinated or depend on pollinators like bees, butterflies, bats, beetles, birds, and more. But before I talk more about pollinators and the problems that they're facing, I wanted to give you a little background on the St. Croix National Scenic Riverway. You can see the St. Croix River behind me. The riverway has been in use of thousands of years by humans. Archaeologists have found remnants of tools, pots, human and animal remains at dig sites across the river, along the river, and the Dakota, Fox, and Ojibwe tribes have been known to live along the river and use the river and its surrounding areas to hunt and fish and thrive as a community. In the late 1600s, the first Europeans were recorded as coming to the river, and notably French fur traders and voyageurs used the river, both Namaquagan and the St. Croix, and their tributaries to sell and trade beaver pelts. Beaver pelt trade was a huge business in the 1700s. Fast forward to the 1800s. Around 1830, the river started to become used for massive logging operations. All along the riverbanks there were lumber camps, competing lumber industry organizations, and the river at times was so full of logs that you could walk straight across at the widest points of the river. In about 1914, with the proliferation of train and over-the-road transportation, the river stopped being used as a water highway. In the 1960s, former Senator Walter Mondale, who was also former Vice President Walter Mondale, was instrumental in getting this stretch of the river designated under the National Wild and Scenic Rivers Act. The Lower St. Croix was added to that designation in 1972. Critical to the river's health and the St. Croix River Valley's health in general are the lands, animals, plants, and water that make up the ecosystem. When pollinators are in decline, like they have been in the last 10 years, that ecosystem is threatened, along with our economic system, food system, and in general the environment. Beekeepers in Florida, beginning in 2006, were the first to sound the alarm about honeybee die-off. Otherwise known as colony collapse disorder, honeybees were found dead by the millions. And this has been attributed to habitat loss, climate change, parasites, and as well as insecticides, and especially a class of insecticides known as neonicotinoids, or neonics. Neonics are thought to cause honeybees to die. They're also thought to disrupt navigation patterns and disorient the bees, so they're not able to find their way back to their hives. There's an estimated decline of 40% of European honeybees, which are used primarily to pollinate major crops in the United States over the last few years. So you can see where the risk and the worry comes in. It's a serious threat to lose that many pollinators. Another pollinator at risk here in the St. Croix region is the Karner blue butterfly. I'm going to show you a picture of the Karner blue butterfly. The Karner blue butterfly is about 1 inch across, and it's native to the Great Lakes region. It was discovered in the 1940s by author Vladimir Nabokov at Central Park in New York City. And at once populations were huge from the Atlantic Ocean all the way through Minnesota. But now populations have decreased significantly. This has been attributed to loss of habitat. Karner blue butterflies only live in oak savanna or pine barrens, and their caterpillars only eat wild lupine, which only grows in those areas. And so habitat loss and suppression of wildfires, human infrastructure expansion, as well as climate change and other factors have led to lower populations of the Karner blue. The largest population of the Karner blue butterfly is in Wisconsin, and the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service listed the Karner blue butterfly on the endangered species list in 1992.